We really put emphasis on the idea of being a family. And that is the one positive thing we had when we were 0-4, because I could really easily address the issue. We are 0-4 right now, we are shit, and we have to be honest about it. What do we do?
Hey Darius! I swear to God, if you talk to me again before I had my morning coffee... Dude, calm down, man, calm down! Brain effect awake for a perfect dose of caffeine. Hello everyone, this is Darius from the Shotcaller once again, joined by Yamato after an interesting game against G2. What was your initial reaction to the Garen top lane pick?
I was happy, because I think Karma Klepto is rough for Garen, a rough matchup. But you know, besides the Garen, I'm really proud of the other things that we managed to accomplish. Like everyone's going to look at, oh, they trolled, that's why they lost. But they've won games when they trolled, you know, because of how great they play. And I think this game, my main takeaway is, you know, how well we played in the bottom. We got the 2v2 kill straight off the bat. We managed to secure every blue buff. We managed to deny everything from Azir. Mowgli was smurfing, securing every dragon. We were getting advantages all over the map. We did good macro decisions, and that had nothing to do with the Garen. So for me, there's a lot to be happy about. And, you know, there's a small hint of salt that is Garen in this G2 victory soup.
So you are still very much adamant about the fact that you guys would have won either way, even if it would have been, for example, a different champion besides Garen?
Oh, that's impossible to say, and it would be arrogant to say, because you know G2 is a fantastic team, and such a victory doesn't put the idea in my mind that we're all of a sudden better than them. We have a lot of work to do. Even in this game, we could have accelerated our lead even further. We were just, you know, every time we play against G2, we managed to accumulate massive leads, and we just managed to throw it. I remember there was Jarvan solo killing Camille, and I remember a game as well when we decided to dive the Pyke Yumi on the bot lane and just ran away, and then we were like also super far ahead in that game, and then we just started to skirmish with them, which was a big mistake in our own jungle, and they just got Pyke-ult and got a bunch of kills, and then they ended in 22 minutes. So I wanted to avoid this, and I felt the tension in game with my guys too, because they wanted to avoid it too. So what was the question? I was just talking.
The fact that the Garen wasn't solely responsible for this win at all, and that, for example, in my opinion, Mowgli played one of his best game on the LEC stage so far.
Yeah, for sure. Mowgli was smurfing. Yep. So like the question, like, would we win if they wouldn't have Garen? Who knows? You know, maybe they would pick some insane counter to Karma, and then all of a sudden they have something more to play through, and all of a sudden the whole game looks different. It's really hard to predict, because all variables in League can change the whole outcome. So who knows? Maybe if they picked something else than Garen, they would have played much better. I don't know what their mindset was coming into this game. Nothing at all. So I don't want to say that if they wouldn't have Garen, we would win too. It would be a competitive game. That's
fair to say. Now, that said, Vitality stock has risen quite a bit over the last few weeks after a very rough start, of course, and a bit of a few shakeups here and there. Are you now a lot more confident going into the playoffs race? Which teams are your direct competitors in your eyes?
I think right now, you know, OG is facing Misfits. That's a very important game, because that result will tell us a lot about how the state of OG is. Because I think Misfits is rising, XL is also rising. I think for those last playoff spots, the teams that look the most competitive for the last slots seems to be XL and Misfits in my eyes. They have a lot of young blood, and they seem to be very hungry and motivated. And I'm not getting the same vibe from Rogue's improvement curve, and also from the improvement curves of Origin. But Origin is such a team that you can't really predict, because you know all of a sudden one week they figure their shit out, and all of a sudden they're a different team. And this is what happened last split. They looked very rocky in the beginning, and then you know Mythi stopped inting on Tampkench. So it's hard to predict. I think on our end it feels good that with our scoreline it's in our hands, and as long as we keep improving and we keep playing better, then we're going to secure that playoff spot. And right now, with our trajectory, I feel very confident in beating, you know, with how we are improving, I feel confident beating any of the teams in the best of 5 that might be not seeded into the top 2, because top 2 is very hard to reach.
Very hard to reach indeed, but of course playoffs is the primary goal right now. Now, tell me a bit about how the season for me, because we are in week 7, it is getting closer to the end when we can already draw like some conclusions here and there, I would say. Tell me a bit about what went wrong kind of in the early weeks and how you eventually managed to figure things out and get some consistency going and get some important game wins on the board that you're now back in the playoffs race, because, you know, Vitality was in that 0-4 situation at one point.
Yeah. Like when we was 0-4, we were bad at macro, we had a really bad draft, we had a poor individual play, we weren't playing as a team. The only thing that was going good, and is probably the most important one if you're in such a rut, is that we were very content with each other. Mm-hmm. We have put a lot of efforts and emphasis to make sure that everyone is happy with each other, that we really, really put emphasis on the idea of being a family. And that is the one positive thing we had when we were 0-4, because I could really, really easily address the issue. We are 0-4 right now, we are shit, and we have to be honest about it. What do we do? Step by step, everyone took it upon themselves to push. Everyone is motivated by this fear, like what if I can no longer be a pro player? What if we don't go to playoffs and all of a sudden I have a 5-month vacation? All of these motivators, this idea of going to playoffs and going to World Championship is what we want to do. So we kept going, and ever since that 0-4 start, we are pretty much, what is our scoreline? 6-3?
Oh, since then, yeah.
Yeah, 6-3. We are right now 6-7. Yeah, 6-7. So after the 0-4 week, we are 6-3, and that's a big upswing for us. So I'm happy. Yeah.
Very happy about that, for sure. Okay, so with for example, looking at a team like Origin, right? Because Origin is a very fascinating team to look at right now, given their enormous strength in spring, being very consistent and just consistently good. And now they've kind of dropped the ball. How hard is it to coach consistency into the players?
I think, from the perspective of Origin alone, I think what I always got from like the impression of Origin was that they were always somewhat the smarter team. Mm-hmm. They figured out something in draft, they figured out some loophole to get an advantage, and then they could just simply out-macro the enemy with a small advantage that came from their draft alone most of the time. I think right now the meta is very, very, it's open in the sense that you can play almost anything you want in the top lane, but other than that, it's pretty much very, very stale. You need to playing around bottom early, get the dragons, and then later on there's a big Rift Herald fight that kind of decides the flow and decides kind of the rest of the game. So I think the macro part of the game is not as dynamic as OG would want it to be. So I think that's probably a big issue for them. It's hard to judge from an outside perspective. I don't know what's going on there. I'm sure OG will figure it out because I have faith in all of their players. But to the idea of consistency, I think it's very hard in League of Legends because the game changes all the freaking time. I think it's very important that the moment something new comes, you have to just attack it and figure it out as soon as possible. I noticed in LCK they take the approach of, rather than messing up what they're certain with, they keep playing what they're certain with, even though things have been nerfed, and then they slowly incorporate things. Like over there, we still, after all the nerfs, we're playing a lot of Lux, they're playing a lot of Tampkench, and maybe Tampkench is OP, who knows? LCK usually figures some things out, but I think they take the approach of playing the things that you figured out. And I think with League, it's a choice. Either you keep playing what you figured out, or you attack the new and the unknown. And if you're in between, you're going to fall through. And if you can't really dedicate yourself to one or the other, then I think you will always struggle. And I think the idea of consistency, if you want to be at the highest level, you need to be at the level of G2, because they are so free-flowing in, they're like, the way I see it is like the way Bruce Lee spoke about water. You become the cup, and they just adjust to every situation. They're willing to play anything, everywhere, and they're very, very fluid in the way they play. And I think that's like the Nirvana of League of Legends, and that's like with consistency and the unknown mixed into one. So I think OG, for us, how we solved it, we made a very confident choice. We're just going to play this, and we're going to figure it out, and then learn the game from there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how you gain consistency.
by first figuring out a game plan that works like most of the time, and then you tweak out the little details.
Yeah, you see it in, for example, in spring. The teams that were winning were the ones that were just scaling for late game, you know, because all these other details were hard to figure out right off the bat. So this is your stepping stone. You play in a way where, okay, you have a game plan, we're going to be stronger at 30 minutes. Very simplified, very basic. And then afterwards you add. And I think that's how you build consistency. Because if you're in the midst of it and you feel, oh, we have problems with this, we have problems with this, you have problems with that, then it becomes very frustrating and very draining to play when you're in a position where you're doing worse. So I think simplify, or if you have like high-level players, maybe they figure out the unknown, all of a sudden the meta shifts in their direction and they are playing, you figure out some new champion, all of a sudden you get this rhythm, you get this flow. So I think you need to find the balance there.
You need to find the balance. Any final words for the Vitality?
Yeah.
Maybe that as well would be, a lot of Vitality fans would be very happy about that, especially here in Europe and with finals being in Paris.
Yes.
But do you have any final words for the Vitality fans for the upcoming or ongoing playoffs race, if you will?
I've said this in all of the interviews we did the split, just keep cheering for us. We are working very, very hard. In the beginning, maybe it was hard to see. It's hard to judge from an outside perspective that these guys are doing their best, because sometimes, so comments, oh, this guy's laughing on camera or whatever when he's dying or whatever. No. Everyone is always working their hardest, and we are trying to still achieve our dreams. And the fans' dreams is to go to the World Championship and do even better than last year. So this is our goal, this is our motivation, and just keep cheering us on, because it pushes us in the right direction. And I'm assuring you, you want to be on the right side of history.
You always want to be on the right side of history. And a hashtag for the people that watched until the end.
Just hashtag V for victory.
As always, hashtag V for victory. Thank you so much, YamatoCannon, for your time. Make sure to follow him on Twitter, of course. This was Darius from the Shotcaller. And see you guys with more LEC interviews. That was the way. Thank you. We'd especially like to thank Krzysztof Bujnovic, Thomas Göttel, Etienne, Erich Althaus, Lukas Legal, Lazy Raven, Lama Vyuta, and Adam Novosviat for your very special support. And of course, also all the people whose names you see scrolling past you. Without you guys, we would have closed down probably a while ago. So thank you so much for your help. Thank you.